The first local elections under the Lee Jae-myung administration got underway on Friday as the two-day early voting period opened across the country, drawing a record-high first-day turnout of 11.6%. The U.S. and Iran appear to be edging closer to a provisional agreement to end the conflict, amid indications that Tehran may be softening its position on nuclear negotiations. A draft defense bill in the U.S. House for fiscal year 2027 strengthens the restrictions on funding for any drawdown of U.S. forces Korea, although the NDAA must still clear both the chambers of Congress before it can take effect. Local elections kicked off today here in Korea, with early voting drawing a record-high turnout on the opening day. And voters will be able to cast their ballots at any early voting station nationwide on Saturday, regardless of their registered address. Our correspondent An Sung-jin leads our coverage tonight.
Starting from the early morning, a steady amount of people walked into this community center in Seoul's Yongsan-gu district. Early voting for Korea's local elections started on Friday and continues on Saturday from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. With more than 3,570 early voting locations, many have come with the hope that their ballot will help decide the future of their local area.
I hope good, capable people get elected so the country can do well and move in the right direction.
Lately, it feels like both sides have been focused too much on negative campaigning and attacking each other. I'd rather see candidates focus more on what's best for the country and the people.
On the first day of early voting, the turnout rate reached a record high 11.6%, 1.42 percentage points above the previous election in 2022, with 5.18 million voters casting their ballot nationwide. Jeollam province in the southwest saw the highest voter turnout rate. For early voting, eligible voters can cast their ballot nationwide regardless of their address, but they must bring a valid government-issued ID. Most voters will receive 7 ballots, while voters in districts holding parliamentary by-elections will receive an additional ballot. The National Election Commission says live video footage of ballot storage facilities will be made available to the public around the clock. Monitoring ballot storage conditions through live screens from regional election commission offices will also be available. While local elections determine regional leadership, they're also widely viewed as something of a midterm test for the central government. As recent polls show narrowing gaps between ruling and opposition party candidates in several key battleground regions, candidates will continue their campaigning till June 2nd, one day before Election Day next Wednesday. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
And President Lee Jae-myung and First Lady Kim Hye-kyung were among those who took part in early voting for the June 3rd local elections today. At around lunchtime, they went together at a polling station in Seoul's Jongno-gu district near the presidential office. They cast ballots for the Gyeang-eul district based on their registered home address. And ballots were also cast today by Prime Minister Kim Min-seok. In other news, the United States and Iran appear closer than ever to a tentative peace agreement, with Tehran showing possible signs of flexibility on the nuclear issue. Kim Jun-hong has more.
The United States and Iran have tentatively agreed to a 60-day memorandum of understanding to extend their ceasefire and launch talks on Iran's nuclear program. Citing U.S. and regional sources involved in the mediation, Axios reported Thursday local time that most terms had been settled on as of Tuesday. Still, U.S. President Donald Trump has yet to sign off on the deal, and Iran has not officially confirmed its acceptance. The proposed MOU would ensure free passage through the Strait of Hormuz with no shipping tolls, and Iran required to clear all mines within 30 days. U.S. naval blockade would also be eased gradually, in line with the recovery of commercial shipping traffic. On the nuclear front, Iran would pledge not to pursue nuclear weapons, while initial talks during the 60-day period would focus on Tehran's highly enriched uranium and enrichment activities. If nuclear issues move forward, Washington in return would discuss sanctions relief, frozen asset releases, and humanitarian support for Iran. But if Iran fails to deliver on nuclear commitments, Trump warned that both economic and military options remain in play. Key sticking points still need to be resolved, with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance saying Thursday that talks with Iran were close but not there yet.
And we're in a position where we could substantially set back their nuclear program, not just during the term of this president, but over the long term. That's a very, very good thing for the American people. So we're not there yet, but we're very close. We're going to keep on working at it.
Yet tensions remain high as sporadic clashes continue. Iranian media reported Thursday local time that the military launched a missile from southern Iran toward an unidentified target, while an explosion was reported near the Strait of Hormuz. Some sources also raised the possibility of a maritime clash in the Persian Gulf. Amid the tensions, Pakistan's foreign minister will visit Washington Friday local time for talks with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, with regional security expected to be on the agenda. Kim Jun-ong, Arirang News.
Also in the Middle East, for the first time in 3 weeks, Israeli forces struck the Lebanese capital area in what is being referred to as a targeted strike. Lee Seung-jae reports.
The Israeli military says it carried out an airstrike Thursday local time in the southern suburbs of Beirut, marking the first Israeli strike on the Lebanese capital area in nearly 3 weeks amid escalating tensions with the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah. An Israeli security source identified the target as Ali al-Huzni, the head of the missile force in the Imam Hossein division, an Iranian militia that operates alongside Hezbollah. It remains unclear whether he was killed. The Israeli military said additional details would be released later. According to Lebanese media, the strike hit the Shuwaifat area just south of Beirut. Lebanese security officials said 2 precision missiles targeted a building in the capital's southern suburbs. There was no immediate comment from Hezbollah or Iran. Israeli officials say the military had refrained from carrying out strikes in Beirut for the past 3 weeks following requests from Washington. However, Israeli surveillance drones have continued flying over Beirut on a near-daily basis. 2 Israeli security sources said Thursday's operation came after what they described as very intense dialogue with the Trump administration in recent days. The strike was the first on Beirut since May 6, when an Israeli attack killed Ahmad Galeb Bailut, a commander in Hezbollah's elite Radwan force. The latest attack deals another blow to a ceasefire announced by Washington on April 16th that was meant to halt months of fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now, growing instability in the Middle East is casting a shadow over Korea's economy as the country posted its first triple decline in production, consumption, and investment in 8 months. Park Jun-an has more.
The ongoing conflict in the Middle East is now casting a visible shadow over Korea's real economy as production, consumption, and investment all declined in April. The Ministry of Data and Statistics said Friday that industrial production across sectors fell 0.6% from the previous month, marking the first decline in 3 months. Petroleum refining output plunged about 19%, marking the sharpest decline in 37 years. Auto production fell 10%, while in contrast, semiconductor output rose more than 3%. Domestic demand and investment also showed weakness, with both the retail sales index and facility investment falling 3.6% from the previous month. An official from the Data Ministry directly pointed to the impact of the Middle East conflict on Korea's oil-dependent economy.
In April, manufacturing output was particularly hit by a sharp decline in petroleum refining linked to the Middle East conflict. Other sectors, including chemical products and non-metallic minerals, also posted slight declines due to unstable supplies of naphtha and asphalt.
Despite some signs of pessimism, the government remains optimistic about a quick rebound starting in May. Finance Minister Koo Yoon-chul on the same day described it as a temporary base effect due to high growth in previous months, adding that a prompt turnaround is expected from May as consumption and exports remain strong. Park Jun-an, Arirang News.
The U.S. House's draft fiscal 2027 NDAA reinforces safeguards against cuts to U.S. versus Korea troop levels, though the NDAA must still pass both the House and Senate before becoming law. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung explains.
A draft of the National Defense Authorization Act submitted by the U.S. House of Representatives for the fiscal year 2027 contains strengthened restrictions on the use of funds to reduce the number of U.S. forces Korea troops. Released by the House Armed Services Committee Chairman Mike Rogers on Friday, the NDAA for fiscal year from October this year to September next year says that no funds authorized under the Act may be obligated or expended for the purpose of reducing the number of U.S. troops stationed in South Korea below 28,500. The FY 2027 NDAA draft goes further than this year's version by broadening the funding restrictions on reducing U.S. troops in South Korea. It bars not only NDAA funds, but also any funds allocated in fiscal years 2026 and 2027 from being used for troop cuts. The latest House draft also includes provisions aimed at strongly limiting the U.S. president's ability to make unilateral decisions regarding the reduction or redeployment of troops stationed in Europe. The provisions are non-binding recommendations. Under the current NDAA, the restriction can be lifted after 60 days if the administration proves the move serves U.S. national security interests or confirms consultations with South Korea, Japan, and member states of the United Nations Command. A similar clause is expected in the 2027 NDAA. Still, some analysts say the measure could act as a legal check if President Donald Trump seeks a major unilateral reduction of U.S. troops in South Korea. The NDAA must pass both the House and Senate, and thus this version could still change during negotiations with the Senate before the bill is finalized. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
As climate talks face growing pressure from wars, energy shocks, and industrial rivalry, Korean experts say Seoul has more room to shape the global response. Our Oh Seung has this report.
Korea must play a larger role in global climate diplomacy amid weakening leadership in an increasingly contested world. That's according to experts and officials attending a forum in Seoul hosted by the Seoul International Law Academy.
The forum comes at a time when climate and energy issues are increasingly intersecting with trade, technology and security concerns, prompting fresh questions about the kind of role countries like Korea can play.
Because of the so-called return of the geopolitics, suddenly people seems to not to understand the important context of the climate change, and then there are shift of focus on the energy security and economic security these days, especially in Korea.
Professor Chung So-young also leads the Center for Climate and Sustainable Development Law and Policy, which has been working to bring climate policy into the mainstream of Korea's diplomatic strategy.
Climate should be placed as umbrella framework by providing the visions and the long-term strategies. Underneath, we can only talk about short-term issues on energy security and economic security. We need to consider nexus approach among the climate security, energy security, and economic security.
Former Vice Foreign Minister An Oh-young warned that geopolitical crises are increasingly overshadowing cooperation. He cited how the US had left the Paris Climate Agreement and how since the start of the Ukraine war, Europe has been grappling with an energy crisis.
Now the war going on in Iran, and then because of that, everybody's talking about how to manage supply of energy, supply of other critical minerals. So that, I think, is the reason why countries like Korea, that is to say mid-power countries, we must get together to deal with large number of global issues.
And said such countries can keep practical coalitions moving when global leadership weakens.
How to promote fight against climate change through technology, through financing, and through capacity building. And that, in fact, is the approach which was adopted by the global community back in 2015. Korea, in fact, should be very much in the center of international efforts among like-minded countries. They are like-minded countries who understand the importance of energy, but at the same time who also understand it should be balanced. Supply of energy should be balanced with fighting climate change.
The forum featured presentations on energy security and emissions reduction, followed by a broader discussion between government officials, academics, industry experts and media. Oh Seong, Arirang News.
Humanoid robot monks have captured public attention this week, underscoring Buddhism's growing push to engage younger generations through technology and contemporary culture. Our culture correspondent Jo Young-eun tells us more.
The Lotus Lantern Festival is a Korean celebration with more than 1,200 years of history. But this year, it was joined by some striking new figures. Humanoid robot monks, dressed in traditional robes, took part in the parade, drawing attention from visitors and the media alike. Among them was Gabi, the robot monk that became a focal point after receiving Buddhist precepts.
에너지를 아끼고 과충전이 않는 것입니다. 과충전 하지 않겠습니까?
예, 않겠습니다.
This transformation is becoming visible far beyond temples and festivals. Buddhist-themed brands have recently gained popularity among younger generations, turning spiritual messages into relatable cultural experiences and lifestyle content.
These days, Buddhism feels pretty hip among people my age, so I think it's great that more content like this is being created.
T-shirts featuring illustrated Buddha characters, key rings, and social media-friendly designs reinterpret Buddhist teachings with humor and warmth. Even celebrations surrounding Buddha's birthday are increasingly adopting elements of Korea's fandom culture.
There's something comforting and approachable about it. It gives people a chance to reflect on themselves and let go of some of the pressure they carry. So I think that's why it resonates positively with people.
By offering cultural experiences, religion is increasingly serving as a source of comfort, enjoyment, and even daily routine.
We think many young people struggle with uncertainty about life, and Buddhism offers realistic guidance and comfort, which is why we try to reflect those messages in our items.
Blending its open nature with technology and trends, Buddhism is becoming more accessible and engaging. Jo Young-eun, Arirang News.
K-pop continues to dominate the global music scene, attracting fans from around the world. And that popularity was once again proven at the 2026 American Music Awards that took place earlier this week. To tell us more about the significance of K-pop's AMA success, we have our culture correspondent Park Kwon-woo here in the studio. Welcome back, Kwon-woo.
Great to be here, Dami.
So, Kwon-woo, let's begin with the major wins that K-pop artists brought home at this year's Academy. Tell us more.
All right, so at this year's American Music Awards held Monday at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, K-pop acts received a total of 11 awards among the 50-plus categories. Most notably, mega hit boy band BTS took home 3 awards, including the night's top honor, Artist of the Year. BTS previously won in this category 5 years ago, becoming the first Asian act ever to receive the award before the members began their mandatory military service. And this year, as you can see on the screen right now, BTS beat out 9 other major global artists, including Bad Bunny, Taylor Swift, Bruno Mars, and Lady Gaga to claim the title once again. In addition to the grand prize, BTS also won Song of the Summer for Swim, the lead track from its latest album, Arirang, as well as Best Male K-pop Artist, sweeping all 3 categories in which the group was nominated. One expert said this was a sign that the band hadn't been forgotten about while on military hiatus.
Because the members enlisted one by one, the group was able to continuously release music and content throughout the period, while each member also expanded their individual fan base. And in many Western countries, where mandatory military service is uncommon, BTS's return after military service has created a hero narrative.
At the ceremony, K-pop Demon Hunters also took home 4 trophies, including Song of the Year for Golden from its soundtrack. Korea-US collaborative K-pop group Katseye also emerged as another standout winner, earning 3 awards, including New Artist of the Year, and twice also won Best Female K-pop Artist. By accounting for about 1/5 of the awards handed out at this year's AMAs, industry experts say it reflects K-pop's growing influence on the global music scene and could signal even greater global success ahead.
There's some generational tension between traditional music culture and the way younger audiences consume music. But as younger generations continue to grow, the cultural flow of K-pop is also evolving, as Taekwondo has expanded globally to some 150 million practitioners. The ways people enjoy music are also becoming more diverse, whether through animation, social media platforms, and more.
And following this, Kanu, can we expect to see more of these similar successes at other major music awards, maybe the Grammys?
Possibly. But it's also important to understand what each of these 3 major music awards, the AMAs, the Billboard Music Awards, and the Grammys, places the most importance on. The AMAs are widely seen as a stronger reflection of public popularity, as winners are determined through fan votes after nominees are selected over factors including streaming numbers and album sales. The Billboard Music Awards are based largely on objective data such as sales figures and social media engagement, while the Grammys rely more on votes and evaluations from around 15,000 music industry insiders, including composers and producers.
The Grammys are often criticized for being somewhat rigid and slow to adapt to changing trends because the voting system is centered around industry insiders. And unlike fan-driven awards, the Grammys tend to focus more heavily on evaluating individual artistry. But as global music culture increasingly moves toward fandom-based engagement, something K-pop has led, ignoring BTS again could trigger significant backlash.
Kim added that BTS's efforts to collaborate with musicians and producers based in Los Angeles for the latest album will likely leave a strong impression on industry voters, many of whom tend to value familiarity and close industry networks when evaluating these artists.
I see. Well, while BTS is expected to keep their momentum, they are on their world tour. Where's their next stop?
Right. So after finishing a 4-day residency in Las Vegas, BTS now heads to Busan for the next leg of the world tour, Arirang. The concerts will coincide with the group's 13th anniversary on June 13th, with performances scheduled over 2 days from June 12th. As large numbers of international fans are expected to visit the city, the Korean government is also stepping in to crack down on excessive accommodation prices and other unfair practices. Several government agencies, including the Culture Ministry and Interior Ministry, plan to conduct joint inspections ahead of the concerts to create a safe and comfortable environment for all visitors coming to Busan.
Alrighty, Kanu, thank you for the wrap-up. As always, I'll see you next Friday.
Yes, of course, as always.
Looking ahead to the weekend, temperatures will continue to climb, bringing early summer heat across the country. Areas highlighted in red on the map, mainly across parts of the Gyeongsang-do provinces, will see temperatures exceed 30 degrees on Saturday. By Sunday, Seoul will rise to 30 degrees, while Pohang will soar to 34 degrees. Many areas across the country will top the 30-degree mark. Strong sunshine will dominate throughout tomorrow. UV levels are expected to reach the extreme levels on Jeju Island, while most of the other regions will see very high UV levels. Ozone concentrations will also be on the rise, so please take extra precautions. Meanwhile, Typhoon Changmi is heading northward south of Japan. Although it won't directly impact Korea, rough seas are expected around Jeju Island from Tuesday next week. Tomorrow, Seoul will start the day at 16 degrees, Chuncheon at 14 degrees, Busan at 17 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 28 degrees, while Daegu and Gyeongju will all top out at 32 degrees. Looking ahead, daytime heat will stick around through Wednesday, Election Day. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.